Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I'm going to be looking at Biden's only path to the presidency as of right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you like content just like this. And so right now we're actually putting together an online forecast between me, Gold Crown Politics, as well as Connor K, which is a data analyst that I know, and we're putting it together to be able to put out an official forecast for the 2024 presidential election. All of our ratings are in for the state of Virginia, and Donald Trump actually picks it off by 0.2 percentage points as of right now. However, we're going to be looking at something interesting. This is my election model where Donald Trump's projected to win the national popular vote by 5.3 percentage points with third-party candidates included. We basically look at the nonpartisan voting patterns of every single state from the last 3 presidential cycles, look at the average shift and project where the state is going to vote relative to the nation. We kind of shift the popular vote to see where that will go, and based on the elasticity score, there's going to be a certain error from the adjusted model as well as how the shift in the state goes. And essentially these are all the results we have right now. I have New Hampshire going to Biden very narrowly, Virginia goes to Biden narrowly, Nebraska's second for whatever reason is very competitive, and Maine at large actually goes Republican, Minnesota goes Republican, so does the state of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania goes Republican, Nevada does. We also have the state of Michigan going Republican as well. We also have Illinois going Democrat with Colorado. However, they are much closer. Hawaii is essentially a 13-point win. Biden is only winning New York by 9. And states like Vermont are only 27-point wins. California is a 19-point win for Biden. So we see that Donald Trump is projected in my forecast to win pretty big. He's actually projected to win around somewhere around, I think it's like 329 electoral college votes, essentially. I also think he loses New Mexico in this forecast. He loses it by about 3 points. The polling is not looking that great for Donald Trump. So he does lose 329 electoral college votes. But I want to talk about Biden's only realistic path to the White House. Essentially, a lot of skeptical Trump supporters would essentially have to sit out the election due to voter integrity concerns. And essentially, we would get a map that looks kind of similar to 2020, but there would be some discrepancies. You would see New York, Illinois still be under 15 points for Biden. You would have Colorado be a likely Democrat state, including Virginia, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, Texas. These states would be Republican, including South Carolina. Alaska would not be. New Mexico would still probably be likely Democrat. So we would get a map that looks similar to 2020, but it's not necessarily that similar. States like Maine at large would be likely, including a state like New Hampshire. Minnesota would be kind of competitive, but not necessarily. It would be under the 5-point category, but it would be like a 3 or 4-point win for Biden. And at this point, North Carolina, Georgia would be going Republican alongside the state of Nevada. And even to a certain extent, Arizona would be lean Republican because Donald Trump has gained massively with Hispanic voters nationwide. I'm actually going to pull something up for you guys quite interesting here that I forgot to pull up while I started recording this video. But essentially, we have, a demographic model that I essentially put together where we got, the New York Times / Siena College poll. They basically pulled every single one of these groups. They asked the same people, who did you vote for in 2020? And these were the samples that we got. These were the actual exit poll margins for all of these demographics. And then we essentially got the adjusted error comparing the 2020 margin from the exit polls to the sample they got. And we essentially applied that adjusted error to this new demographic model. And essentially we have 18 to 29-year-olds tied. We have college educated voters tied. Non-college is +7 for Trump. We also have, Hispanic voters voting for Biden by 5 points. We have women voting basically tied. We have men voting for Trump by 13 points. African Americans are only voting for Biden by 32 percentage points. We have other voting 13. We have whites voting for Trump by 19 points. So the white vote only shifts 2 points to the right this cycle. And what I noticed is that when I basically put it on the 538 model, when I broke down all the demographics, it gave Donald Trump like 535 electoral college votes. So that wasn't very realistic. So when I broke it down by each individual race, essentially I broke it down by race, broke it down by age, education, and gender, and I basically estimated and basically averaged out all the results. We get the demographic margins on the side here. Donald Trump is winning Virginia in this scenario. He is winning the state of New Mexico. He's winning Nebraska second very easily. He wins Minnesota very easily. He also wins Maine at large pretty comfortably. He wins Illinois, or not really. It's actually really competitive. I don't know why I blanked out on that. Illinois is a 5 point win. If we go to New York, we see it's like an 11 point win for Biden as of right now. And so, really, the only realistic path for Biden is to win through the Rust Belt and get that Nebraska second district. If that district flips Republican, which based on demographics, it seems like it would flip Republican more easily this cycle. Donald Trump would still be tying in the Electoral College, and Biden wouldn't even be able to necessarily even win there because Donald Trump would probably win through the House of Representatives. Biden has to get that second district in Nebraska, and he would literally have to clean sweep the entire Rust Belt. But if Trump is polling, at 30, basically 25% with African American voters, Pennsylvania and Michigan are long gone. And if he's improving even just a bit with whites, the Rust Belt's already gone for him at a minimum. Now, again, my actual projection is way more Republican than this. I have him winning all the Rust Belt states very easily. But if Biden were to hypothetically win the presidential election, this is what we'd be looking at. And what's pretty ironic about Biden now is that he's actually looking for more old white people to vote for him rather than going back to the 2020 coalition, which was a lot of African American, Hispanic voters and young voters. Now he's actually trying to find more boomers to vote for him, and they are kind of shifting towards him. The 65 plus category, even when you look at the demographic shifts, they do actually shift to him by about a point compared to the 2020 exit polls. And it would make sense because we actually do have, a lot of boomers already have their assets. They have houses for many years. They have their own assets and they've been inflating. So for them, the economy realistically has been pretty fine for the most part. In some cases now, other people in, bigger city areas where association fees were kind of going higher, that's really affecting more older Hispanic voters. But the white older population, that the ones that are plus 65, a lot of their properties have been basically inflating in assets. So to see a tiny bit of a shift towards Biden sort of makes sense because a lot of those voters are more concerned about traditional values like preserving democracy, which a lot of Biden supporters for that category tend to be the plus 65 vote, which would make sense in an election scenario. And there are a lot of plus 65 voters in the Northeast and even in the Rust Belt to a certain extent. And a lot of older African Americans are still kind of leaning towards Biden. So as of right now, this is my only possible path for Biden to actually win the Electoral College. You could see him get Arizona and get Wisconsin, and Trump get Wisconsin. That could be another path, but usually the Rust Belt always votes together in presidential elections. Ever since 1992, they all voted for the same candidate all those times. And Arizona has a decent Hispanic population. And actually, what's quite funny is that if we go over here, Red Eagle Politics and SoCal Research have actually done a Maricopa County poll. They actually did a poll for this. And what we find is that Donald Trump is actually winning. He's winning the county in this scenario, or at least he is tied. He is tied in Maricopa County right now, at least according to this poll. He is currently tied. Biden literally wins it by exactly a single vote. Now we look here, Ruben Gallego is winning it only by 3, which is not going to really be enough for him to win, by the way. Maricopa County, Hobbs, I believe, won it by a little bit more than that. We actually see that a decent amount of independents even break, towards Donald Trump to an extent. So that is also quite interesting. And they break things down by age, education, race. And so we see that Donald Trump really they even broke it down by marriage status, which is crazy to even look at. Even employment status, they actually look at that, and they broke it down by party registration. But this poll shows Donald Trump is doing very well in Maricopa, and this may very well be underestimating him as of right now. This poll was actually pretty well done, even though it's from Election Twitter. They actually did this very professionally and broke it down quite well. I wouldn't have included it in this video if I didn't think it was the case. And so we do have a very big sign that Donald Trump probably wins Arizona more easily than most people are expecting. I have him winning it by about 8 or 9 points right now, but even if this election somehow ends up being, razor thin, I think he wins Arizona by 2 to 3 at a minimum. And so that leaves Biden with just the Rust Belt to win. And there's already a lot of demographics that they're shifting away from him in polling. He would have to get very lucky with plus 65 voters. I think he'd have to basically get it tied in order to even win the presidential election as of right now. Luckily for Biden, that is one of the more groups that tends to turn out the most during presidential elections. So if Biden somehow was able to win that group, the race would actually get way closer. I would probably have the race more competitive, but polling data still suggests that Donald Trump still wins the election very easily. When you look at the data closely, you look at adjusted errors, you see Donald Trump is still going to be able to win a lot of these states very easily, and even picks off Minnesota. New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, they kind of lean towards Biden to a certain extent. And so that really is affecting him. I think he does pick off Maine at large in that forecast of mine as well. Virginia is competitive as well as New Hampshire. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Now, New Mexico, just to kind of give a note, I think it is pretty interesting that the state is, in fact, still, in that, Republican column there, or at least in the Democrat column. But it would make sense because realistically, there are a lot more to say white liberals in a state like New Mexico and Albuquerque. So that's why you kind of see that result in a state like that. But realistically, the entire margins would essentially look like this. This is what my election forecast technically has right now. He's winning 325 electoral votes to 213 as of right now. And that's with looking at adjusted errors from my 2020 model and stuff like that I set up behind the scenes. And so that's what I have right now. But really, Biden's path is just through the Rust Belt, just off this quick analysis. And if you guys did enjoy this, please make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel down below if you want more content just like this. I will make sure to put out an election projection later today. I will see you guys very, very soon.